This Friday episode of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. And with the promo code Sports Addict, get an additional 10% off all sales items. That's firstroundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax.
Hey, welcome, Pucks Across Borders, Sports Addict Live on a Friday afternoon, going live a little bit earlier today. Thank you so much for joining us. To my right or left, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, how you doing this afternoon, man?
Doing pretty good. Definitely have a lot to get to in the hockey world. I know for our West Coast viewers, you're just having a cup of coffee right now. So hopefully our bet recommendations can start you off right.
Absolutely. And at the bottom of your screen, you read his work on Gridiron Heroics as well. Winners and whiners. You hear him talk about the NBA and the NFL on Total Apex Sports. As a matter of fact, right after this episode, go over to Total Apex Sports on Twitter and or YouTube and hear our man Andre talk about the NBA. Andre, how we doing, bro?
Doing pretty well. It's Friday. It's kind of sunny out. It's pretty nice. And playoff football is tomorrow, so excited for the weekend. And I'm excited the Rangers don't play today, but we're not going to talk about that part.
If we had more time, I would want to do a little deep dive with you just to see kind of how you're feeling. But we'll cross that bridge another day. Maybe they get a win on the weekend and all sins are washed or covered or whatever. So let's get right into it. Lots of chaos. I feel like last night in the gambling world and even just in like the standings, everything, it was just a bloodbath last night in the NHL. John, we'll start with you, man. What's your takeaway from all the action in the NHL last night?
Since we're a little pressed for time, I think my takeaway is going to be a group one with the Pacific Division as a whole. We talked earlier this week. This is mainly going to center around the Kings. We talked earlier this week about their losing streak, and I expressed yesterday that I was a bit concerned about this losing streak of theirs, that they can't seem to score goals, and now they're having a hard time hanging on the leads. Mm-hmm. That came into fruition again last night. Florida's not treating them right now. Like the entire state, I mean, not just the Panthers last night. After blowing a 2-0 lead to Tampa Bay the other night, now the Kings were up 2-1 against the Florida Panthers, one of the hottest teams in the NHL. This would have been a nice win for the Kings, in my opinion, had they been able to hang on. Unfortunately, hanging on to a lead is just not in their forte at the moment. They blow one yet again. Now I believe they've lost 7 in a row. This is starting to get very concerning. I said yesterday, if they can't find a win soon, we're going to have to look at this Kings team differently. And don't look now, but Edmonton and Seattle are creeping up on the Kings. This is a brand new division race, in my opinion, for certain playoff spots. I think the dynamic is quickly changing. I still think this is going to be the Kings' rock bottom. this year, this losing streak. But I think for now, I'm permanently not feeling as comfortable about the Kings hanging on to the top three as we were in the playoff preview. With Edmonton in particular, because we talked about in the playoff show how easy of a schedule the Oilers have this month, and they managed to pull out a good win last night. Seattle's on a nice winning streak right now. They proved me wrong yesterday, beating up on the Capitals a little bit. So don't look now, but the Oilers and Kraken are within striking distance of passing the Kings. And and to wrap up the Pacific as a whole, Vancouver keeps winning. We've talked about them, and Vegas got a much needed win last night as well. So I think the dynamic in the Pacific is starting to change almost permanently right now.
And if you can't score goals, your defense has to be airtight. This team just can't score goals. Like they just like I don't know what's happening, but they just can't put pucks in the net. So leads are really easy to blow if you're not scoring goals, which might be, self-explanatory, but that's on both sides a huge concern. Andre, what about you, man?
Kind of. Well, I just want to touch on what John said a little bit. He's absolutely right about the Pacific. There's new life in that division race, and I wouldn't omit the Golden Knights from the struggles and being caught. Maybe not by the Kraken, but the Oilers. The Oilers have 4 games in hand on them, and they're 8 points back. So with the way things are trending now, the Oilers are also very much in play to pass Vegas in the standings, which is pretty insane considering where they were not that long ago. My takeaway, though, it involves the Oilers and the Kraken and the Jets and the Panthers because they survived the week.
Yeah.
I said pretty much all week. I kept going. One of them is going to lose. One of them is going to lose, and 2 of them escaped through the skin. Well, 3 of them escaped through the skin of their teeth. Seattle, comfortable win in DC. But all 4 teams enter the weekend with their winning streaks intact. The Panthers are up at 9. The Jets are at 8. The Oilers are at 9. The Kraken are at 8. And don't look now, but they could all be playoff teams. For the Oilers and the Kraken, they weren't supposed to be touching a playoff spot based on their starts. But the Oilers have the top wild card in the West right now. The Kraken are tied with the Predators for the second wild card spot. Obviously, the Panthers and the Jets are, divisional spots looking for the lead. But those 4 teams are red hot all at the same time. It's kind of crazy, but they're still doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, the Jets tried to blow their winning streak, and that ending to that game was just phenomenal. So my takeaway, 6 games last night go to overtime. Just about half of the games on the ice last night went to overtime. And one thing that I've talked about before, whether it's on this show or just like to my friends hanging out, whatever, I hate the salary cap from a content point of view. I hate how strict and tight these teams are. I find that the trade deadline for the most part is super boring. I find free agency for the most part to be super boring. All the teams that, like, every team has these crazy needs going into the playoffs because they don't have the money to address those needs. The Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the richest franchises in the NHL, have a subpar back end, and they have Martin Jones starting for them because they spend all of this money on star players and can't afford to hype up the back end of their roster. And that's not just the Leafs, that goes for the Oilers and for a bunch of other teams. I think from a content, point of view, the Dame Lillard trade in the NBA last summer, that was able to create so much content for months because it could actually happen, because the NBA is super flexible. At least it was with the um with the room in the cap, all that stuff. Baseball, can have a guy signing for 40, 50, 60, 70 million now because of the lack of a salary cap. The NFL, sure, a guy might sign for $30 million a year, but only $2 of that is actually guaranteed, right? So there's so much flexibility with that. I hate the salary cap when it comes to the NHL. Content is dead, flexibility dead. To me, super boring. That being said, this is doing exactly what the NHL wanted, and that is that there's no dynasties. Tampa Bay probably the closest to it over the last 5 years. No dynasties. There's no guaranteed lock number one team, right? Winnipeg, Vancouver, nobody picked them to be leading the league at this point. Boston, everyone thought that they'd regress. I picked the under in their point totals in the summer. I mean, the Rangers are a team that people assumed to be the top of the division, but they're having their troubles, and Carolina's coming. Like, it just seems that there's so much parity, and on the ice content last night, like, no one's safe. Like, the Winnipeg Jets were minutes away from losing to the Blackhawks. I was looking at the division standings in the Atlantic. Boston, Florida, Toronto, top 3. Point differential between Boston and Toronto is 7 points, 3.5 games. In the Metro, Rangers, Carolina, the Islanders, the point differential is 6 points. And Philadelphia, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Washington all have between 44 and 48 points, like right there on the heels of the third spot in the Met. In the Central, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, 60 points to 53 points. Nashville, St. Louis, and the Coyotes are between 42 42 and 45 points. And then you have the Pacific, which you guys both touched on, that is super tight. 2 final wildcard spots in the East: Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, 48 points, 47 points. There are 6 teams between 40 and 45 points right there in the wild card race. In the West, you have Edmonton and Nashville at 45 points in the final 2 wildcard spots. Seattle, St. Louis, Calgary, Arizona are between 42 and 45 points. They're all like within 3 points of the 2 wild card. And I mean, Minnesota, 38 points. Pardon me. 38 points right there too. So I'm watching this last night, and I hate I hate, especially as a Leafs fan, where it's like we can pay everybody $50 million a year and just have the best team in the world. But as much as I hate the salary cap, it is thrilling ride, and it's going to be this way for the whole rest of the year. Really fun to watch, super boring when it comes to drama, but super fun to watch so far this year. All right, Andre, let's start with you, man. What's your bad beat from last night?
It's going to involve 2 Pacific Division teams. I guess we're going to just stay West Coast. The Red Wings, I picked them to beat the Oilers in a high-scoring game. They had them. They lost them. They lost in OT. It was rough go of it because they were plus money. And they scored first, and that first goal wasn't until the third period, but couldn't pull it off at home. And the same goes for the LA Kings. It's kind of a dual barrel action here. They were also plus odds. I picked them to snap Florida's winning streak. They were also up, as they tend to be these days. First goal, up 2-1 going into the third. Led in the game-tying goal with just over 2 minutes left, and then lost with 1 second left in OT. So it's not fun being a Kings fan right now. The Red Wings, tough team, understandable. The Kings, you gotta hold on to these leads.
Yeah.
Seriously. And it's a good team at plus 120 odds. Felt really good about that one. So that one really stung. But those are my bad beats from yesterday.
It just dawned on me that the two teams that we're the most concerned about who currently have a playoff spot are Vegas and the Golden Knights. And what's the one thing that both those teams have in common?
Shiny helmets?
The stupid shiny helmets. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it absolutely has something to do with it. You can only look stupid for so long before it catches up with you. You know what I mean? Trust me. I know. John, what was your bad beat last night?
I'm not going to say this is mine, but I'll just echo the Red Wings. I was not happy losing on the under and the outright win as well for Detroit from yesterday in that game. But I think there's one that tops that for me, and that's going back to the Chicago Blackhawks. They're like the bane of my existence in this show. Like they're the team that frustrates me to no end when it comes to trying to fade them. They've had the most ridiculous money lines in the last few weeks, and the sports books are trying to say, all right, we think the Blackhawks are going to be bad, awful, worst team in the league, especially without Bedard now. But man, these Blackhawks have been a little pesky this week. They're not winning these games, but they're cashing in on the puck lines at bare minimum. So it's like these money lines are super inflated to the point where it's not even worth betting their opponents. But the opponent is not even cashing in on these damn puck lines. And yesterday, the Jets barely squeaked out a win. I picked them as the best bet of the day. The Jets on an alternate puck line. Boy, did I look silly there with the Jets almost losing that game outright. I was impressed they came back to win that one, by the way. I'll agree with Mark there. But, man, them and the Oilers, I don't know what it is about the Blackhawks. They just throw teams off. I don't know if they're pesky or teams just look past them, especially without Bedard now. But my point is Chicago's been a very difficult team to bet against this, and I've stressed this before on this show. It's getting to the point where I don't want to even touch a game with the Blackhawks the rest of the year.
Think you just bet the first goal.
Yeah,
let
for
it
real.
ride. Let it ride. So my bad beat, and this is not a shot at our wonderful Andre, not a shot. 60-minute money line. That bad beat for the Toronto Maple Leafs, by the way. So this is the thing, is you can look at it after the fact. They lost the game in overtime, had opportunities to win it. Okay, that's the bad beat. They lost the game outright, but also didn't cover the 60-minute money line. However, the real bad beat of that game is they were up 3-1 and they let that game slip away. That's the bad beat part. Is you're up 3-1. Austin Matthews scores 2 goals in like 90 seconds, and your defense has been pretty good lately, and Martin Jones has been playing really well. And you let the game slip away. And that's the part that is the bad beat, is like when you're up 3-1 and then you go on to not only go to overtime, but to also lose the game. That is really tough. All right. A bit lighter, not a bit lighter, super duper lighter of a slate tonight compared to last night. Let's get it started. Nashville is in Dallas. Dallas coming off a very nice home and home with the Wild. Nashville plus 145 dogs on the road. Dallas minus 175, plus 1.5. At minus 166 is the Nashville puck line. On the Dallas side, minus 1.5 is plus 140. Over 6.5 is the total, minus 110. The under is minus 110. Andre, we'll start with you, man. What do you see in this game?
I'm not trusting Dallas. I know I've picked them the past 2 days to steamroll the Wild, but that was the Minnesota Wild.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I trust them against many other teams right now, and I know I'm not very high on the Predators, but they just suffered a tough home loss to the Ducks. They had won 3 or 4 before that. They've scored 3 or at least 3 goals in 6 straight games. So the offense is clicking. It's the goaltending that's a bit of an issue. And Dallas, outside of or I guess before they had played the Wild, they were struggling to stop pucks. And we've talked about how shorthanded the Wild are. So I'm not even sure if it was Dallas that was stopping the puck or if it was just their opponent not having the pieces to score. So Predators haven't played since Tuesday. They've got some rest. They're looking to bounce back from a win. Been a solid team all season. They've been slightly better on the road. They're 10-7-1 in away games. The Stars are one of those teams that have played worse at home. Granted, they still have a good percentage at home. But I like the Predators here. I think Dallas is going to revert back to the team we were seeing before they faced Minnesota. I still think they need Ottinger back. I still think there's just concerns with a lot of that team right now, just with the way they were playing. So I like the Predators money line here. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I would definitely take the over in this one, but that's where my head is at.
What about you, John?
I agree with Andre. I like Nashville in this spot as well, especially at plus 145. I think something that caught my eye with lines is that the money line is as high as it is on our screen here, but the puck line is a little odd in my opinion because Dallas at 1.5, I saw it's plus 140, which I would have thought it'd be at like plus 120 for the money line they're getting, something like that. But I already liked Nashville before I caught the puck line. Made a lot of what Andre touched on, I agree with. I'll add that I think Dallas playing the Wild the last 2 days is more the Wild being a broken team right now than Dallas being particularly good. I feel like that's going to inflate their ego a bit. And to add on to the Nashville wanting to bounce back from that Anaheim loss, I'll go back to my takeaway here. Don't look now, but Edmonton and Seattle could keep Nashville out of the playoffs if they're not careful. With the way both those teams are playing right now, I think Nashville needs the win pretty badly, considering the way Edmonton and Seattle are playing, combined with the fact they lost to one of the worst teams in the league at home. This just feels to me like a good spot for Nashville to bounce back. I'm not sold on this Dallas team either. I think I'm willing to take the Nashville plus money here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think Nashville has kind of taken a slight step back over the last half of a month or so. My favorite play here, though, because there is still that kind of concern, like the firepower Dallas has catching Nashville on an off night. But to Nashville's side, we just saw this with the Leafs. Like, you play the Ducks and the Sharks twice in the last 3 games, and you play a better team than those teams in the Islanders and get kind of punched a little bit in the mouth. And Dallas has got to play Minnesota two days in a row. I think they outscored the Wild 11-2 in that span, something like that. So you're facing a much better team. I think that Nashville catches Dallas off guard. My favorite bet in this game, though, is the over. And as you said, Andre, Nashville scored 3 or more goals in 6 straight. They've also allowed 5 or more in 4 of the last 7. So they're not keeping the pucks out of the net that well either. Dallas, before the last two games, they were allowing 4 or more goals in 3 of the previous 4 before the 2 games against the Wild. And since December the 6th, they have scored less than 3 goals twice. I also saw with Dallas, they've played 39 games this year. 25 of those have hit the over. If you're calling the over 6.5 for every game, then they've hit the over in 25 of 39 games, which is super telling to me. So my favorite bet in this game is the over, and I'll put a little sprinkle on Nashville money line as well. All right, moving on to the second and final game on tonight's slate. Pitt, speaking of the Minnesota Wild, Philadelphia is in Minnesota. Minus 108 is the Wild at home on the money line. Minus 112 for the Flyers. Minnesota puck line minus 1.5 plus 220 plus 1.5 for Philadelphia is minus 270. The over is 6 at plus 102, and the under is minus 122. John, we'll start with you, and I actually had a question for you because you seem to really look between the lines, if you will. When you see some lines that kind of weird you out, you take that into a count and look pretty deeply into that. So Philadelphia, both these teams on the money line are minus money, right? Philadelphia technically favored at minus 112. Why is the puck line favoring the Wild and not the Flyers? Because you usually see that backwards. And I'm putting you on the spot. I understand. I just noticed it now as I was talking to you. Do you see anything into that? Does that or is it just, it doesn't matter?
I didn't get a chance to look at the puck line for this game, but I'm glad you touched on that though, because it leads into what I was feeling on this game already. Even just looking at the money line, I'm leaning towards a Wild win outright because that does concern me that Philadelphia is near even money with the way the Wild have looked right now. And now that you said the Wild are favored on the puck line.
Yeah.
That is very interesting to me. Like,
Philly
I don't think
favored on the money line, Wild favored on the puck line.
The puck line, right? Yeah. So they're near even money on the money line with the Wild favorite on the puck line. I think it's tipping the hand a little bit that sportsbooks expect Minnesota to pull this off. I think they've looked very bad in that home and home against Dallas, but I think my problem personally is I'm not sold on Philadelphia either. They've, in my opinion, been treading water the last week or so. They really had to squeak out that Montreal win. They had to come back in that game after being down 2-0. I guess you can argue that was a good win for them considering how they started, but I think it concerned me how they were playing against quite, in my opinion, an inferior team at home. And even before that, they looked pretty bad against Pittsburgh, coming out flat earlier this week. So I don't feel like Philadelphia is playing their best hockey either going into this, which is why I could see Minnesota pulling this off. So I am leaning for Minnesota for pretty much the reasons you're saying, Mark. The sports books seem to be giving us a hint that they think Minnesota can win this game. And I think if they're going to win any game this week, this is it. Like, if they don't win this game at home, I think you have to have some deeper concerns. Not that Philadelphia is a pushover. I'm saying more it's a winnable game. I do expect this game to go under, too. Philadelphia unders have been hitting lately. I think Minnesota's been giving up more goals than they're producing in terms of like their games possibly going over. The first one went under against Dallas, but the second one went way over. I don't expect Philadelphia to put up that many goals the way Dallas did the other nights. I mean, the special teams is pretty much a wash. Like Philadelphia is a much better penalty kill, but Minnesota's the better power play. I think my point is I don't expect a lot of goals in this game. I almost expect another like 3-2 type of game. So Minnesota and the under where I'm leaning here.
What about you, Andre?
I agree with the under just because the Flyers don't light the lamp very often. And we've talked about the Wild and their offensive struggles extensively lately. I just can't see either offense going crazy in this game. I can't even combined. I find it hard to believe both teams will score 3 goals, let alone, one. Like at most, I see this being a 3-2 game. I just don't see a lot of scoring in this one. That being said, you got to go the Flyers here. Fading Minnesota has just been a productive sport this week. I guess the past 2 weeks. The Flyers are better on the road. 11-6-4 on the road. And even though Philly doesn't score often, the Wild, we're talking about the offense, they've been allowing goals a lot too. Since December 27th, they allowed 3 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, and then 7 on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not doing much well right now. I don't care that they're home. The Flyers are the better team. Give me the Flyers.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I understand everything that you're saying, John, and I don't even disagree with you necessarily. I just watching what I've watched over this last week, Philadelphia is just grinding out these games. They're not looking super impressive necessarily, but they're grinding these games out. While like Minnesota, they're just giving up a bunch of goals and just not looking good. Now Dallas is a much better team than the Flyers are. Absolutely. But I just think the style of hockey Philadelphia plays is not conducive to the Wild winning. I like Philadelphia money line here. I do like the under as well. I think like the Flyers, like you said, John, they've been playing lots of unders lately. The only thing that concerns me is the amount of goals that the Wild have been putting up. Because the Flyers can't really score goals right now, but Minnesota can't really stop pucks right now. So I'm a little bit nervous about the under, but I would lean that way. All right. Wrapping up the show with our best bets brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Promo code Sports Addict for 10% off every sports card in the First Round Collectibles store. Go to First Round Collectibles, First Round Collectibles, and find your heroes. John, we'll start with you, man. What's your best bet on this Friday night?
So much to choose from here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know I was the only one on the Wild, but that does feel like my least confident pick of the 3 I made on this slate. I just mainly like it because of what the lines are saying. I think I'll touch on something else in this game. I don't mean to steal it if one of you guys are feeling this way, but there's not a lot to choose from. I think the under would be the one I'm most confident with of the 3 picks I made, just because Philadelphia doesn't score a lot of goals in general. Minnesota is not healthy, and they have not looked good all week with these injuries. And they're coming, like you said, Mark, they're playing against a team that typically doesn't give up a ton of goals either. I see this being a low-scoring game no matter who wins, in my opinion. So I do like the under in Minnesota, Philly, as my favorite of the 3.
Love it. Andre, what about you, man?
He's going under in Minnesota. I'm going over in Dallas.
Yes.
Neither team, to me, is stopping pucks well lately. Dallas's Wild games notwithstanding. So I'm just going to expect both offenses to have a nice night, productive night, and 7 goals. It's a 4-3 game. It's a 5-2 game. So whatever you want to call it, seems very realistic for this one, the way the offenses have been and the way that the goalies and the defenses have been. So give me the over in Dallas. I was thinking about taking a goal scorer from that game, but I think I'm going to leave that to my main man. I think I know where he's going with this one.
Do you?
I thought I did.
Maybe. Oh, now you have me thinking. Where I was going to go was actually Tippett's shot total is where I was thinking, because on a 2-game slate, both picking the under and the over, I think that that's extremely hittable, and the goal scorer is pretty volatile. I don't know. Who do you think I was going to go for? Forsberg or Tippett goal scorer?
I don't know. I thought you were just going to have a really good one to throw out there. It's 2 games.
Well,
I was like, this guy has the numbers. He's going to lock it in.
Well, I will say Tippett, as far as a shot total goes, he's over 3.5 at -105. He has got last game he got 5 shots on net. The night before, or a couple days before, 3 shots, and then 4 shots, 7 shots. Had a little bit of a down couple games, 0 shot, 1 shot, but then 5 shots, 5 shots. Before that, 6. Like, he shoots the puck a lot. So I really like Owen Tippett over 3.5 shots at -105. Now, I know you have to run, Andre. We got basketball to talk about over on Total Apex Sports. I will quickly say, if we're talking goal scorer, Boldy has been the only guy from Minnesota really scoring right now. He's +150. If you take Eriksson Ek at +155, I don't hate that either. Tippett +150. He wasn't scoring for about 5 games or so there, but he has 2 goals in his last 2 games. So I like Owen Tippett at +150. And if we go over to the Nashville Dallas side of things, anytime, I mean, Philip Forsberg +155. Pavelski's been scoring lately +175. Tyler Seguin +200. I think that's a really good long shot as well. The other one that I really like, Gustav Nyquist has been a dark horse goal scorer this year, +275 for him to throw one in the back of the net. So there you go, Andre. I wanted to hit this parlay. I thought goal scorer was a bit too risky, but I like all those bets at for tonight's game. Can you do
sounds good to me?
Shots on goals for same game parlays or on DraftKings? You can, right?
You can. And the Flyers Wild under 6 parlayed with Owen Tippett over 3.5 shots is +266. You add over in Nashville versus Dallas, get a +598 parlay.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. There's no Vancouver to bet on plus money, so we gotta make our money somewhere else tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, first round collectibles. Sports Addict is the code for 10% off. And don't forget, shortly after this, go over to Total Apex Sports on Twitter or on YouTube for the NBA preview and breakdown, hosted by none other than our man, I was going to say main man, but there is John here too. He's a pretty main man. And our man, Andre, breaking down the NBA slate for tonight. Well, gentlemen, short, sweet, great work. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you guys all for joining us. Good luck on your bets tonight. We will see you on Monday afternoon, 3:30. We will see you then.